For those of you guys that tuned in right now, what I'm doing is I'm using one of my favorite powders from the Ultimate Kit, and this is going to give me the ability to sculpt something quite amazing. All right, so for those of you guys that were tuning in, my phone started tripping out, so I had to clip that off. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clip off the end of the nail, and what this is going to allow me to do is just keep a little bit of a free edge, right? So that when I place my form, I have enough to rest underneath. And for those of you guys that tuned in right now, what I'm doing is I'm using one of my favorite powders from the Ultimate Kit, and this is going to give me the ability to sculpt something quite amazing. Let me grab something really fast. Give me 2 seconds. All right, so I was missing my bits. All right, so what I want to do is I want to use my electric file to remove shine from the surface of this nail, right? So you notice that what I'm going to do is I'm going to work gently around the perimeter of the nail, and I'm just going to lightly feather it from corner to corner, okay? So once I'm done removing shine from the surface of the nail, then what I'm going to do is use swipe, right? And I could use a manicure brush to pump it and then just kind of cleanse the surface off. If there is a little bit of residue, then I could use a dry wipe to kind of clean off the surface. As soon as I'm done doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Protein Bond. All right, I'm going to use Protein Bond on the surface. So all of this comes inside the Ultimate Kit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and apply this on the surface of the nail on all 10 fingers, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to apply another coat, right, as soon as I'm doing all 10 nails. All right, so what we want to be able to do before we actually start sculpting is I want to kind of show you guys the consistency that we're going to be working with. All right, so once I actually have my powder, then what I want to do is I want to be able to have the right consistency. So if I submerge my brush, right, then what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to bounce inside the powder so that I could get a nice fluffy bead on one side. That way when I release it, it's going to come right off of my brush without sticking. That way my brush stays really, really clean, okay? So that's the consistency that I'm going to use to kind of create a nice pearl. If I'm working on the form, right, to create length, then what I could do to prevent the product from running is I could pick up the same bead by bouncing into the surface, and then I could drain that excess just like this, so that when I go ahead and I set it to the surface, right, of the form, nothing is going to run, right? That's what we want to be able to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have enough liquid, right, inside my dish, right? So I'm just going to hold this right here. That way it pours into my dish without ever spilling down the side of the bottle, okay? And now, this is really important because you can see how I'm actually resting my brush inside the dish. This is going to basically prevent any acrylic from getting jammed up inside. So don't drag across the powder. Don't stab the powder like this. What you want to be able to do is submerge your brush and then use that part of the brush right inside here to bounce inside the powder so that you're going to get yourself something really nice and fluffy that's going to literally release from the brush with just light pressure. That's what you want to be able to do, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to get our form, okay? I'm going to place the tab underneath. I'm going to pre-pinch the tip just like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and you can see what I have. I have a nice C curve, okay? And then what we want to be able to do is when we place it on the finger, the goal is to try to get this as tight to this part of the nail as we possibly can. So for those of you guys that are starting or beginning, you kind of hold this like a handle, and you can see how I can come in. And then once I have it underneath, then I could rock it up, right? So if I'm actually, I'll give you guys kind of a side profile here, right? You can see the form is tilted, right? See how it's tilted down? What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to get this as straight as I possibly can, right? So that my sides are going to be completely even, right? Then I'm going to secure it here. I don't need to secure it at the top. That's how I'm going to ensure that my form is nice and flush. And you're going to notice how tight it is right to the very, very edge of the free edge, okay? So once I have the form on the nail, then what I want to be able to do is I need a bead that's not going to run. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick up a nice pearl, right? I'm going to drain it, right? So the back of my brush, there's no acrylic. I could go ahead and drain all that excess, and then what you're left with is something that's kind of a matte finish. Notice that when I actually set it to the form, boom, nothing runs, right? So what we can do now is we could use the body of the brush to literally walk it from the top of the bead. You can see I'm walking it from the top of the bead. I can get this all the way down. You can see it's even with the side. I'm going to get this even, and I'm going to use the body of the brush, and I'm going to walk it all the way to the corner, right? And then once I actually have that in play, then like I could use the brush to kind of shape it, right? So if I want to come in and kind of taper the tip, I could use the sides of the brush to bring it in, to make this as even as we possibly can. And then I could kind of brush at it to kind of extend the length, right? It doesn't matter if the front end is uneven. I could always use the side of the brush just to kind of make it as even as I possibly can. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of shape it to give it that tapered square look, right? This is going to be that kind of that coffin look. And then once I have this, you're going to notice from the side profile how flush it is, right? So if you're looking at the side profile, there's no buildup. It's like a thin tip. And then you can also see that my sidewalls, right? My sidewalls, they don't dip, right? They're completely straight from here all the way out, from here all the way out, and that's what we want to be able to create. Okay, so once we have the tip, then we want to be able to pick up a bead that has the right consistency that's going to flow from here to here, right? So I'm not trying to do this in one. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a bead that's going to go around the perimeter of the nail. It's going to melt. It's going to flow. It's going to self-level with perfection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to submerge my brush. I'm going to get, again, enough liquid. Boom, 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 like maybe 4 bounces. Then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then around 4, once I set this here, I have enough room to use the tip of my brush to walk around the perimeter of the nail. As everything starts to run, I'm going to slide my brush up to prevent it from basically running, and then I can start brushing from the corners in the front. Brushing from the corners. So what ends up happening is I end up rounding. See how it rounds off here? It rounds off. That's what I want to be able to achieve. If I'm rounding off the edges, right? If I'm rounding off the edges, then what's going to end up happening is that everything tapers down around here. I didn't brush it from the surface. What I did is I allowed the product to flow. So like when you're looking at the side profile, you can see that I already have a really, really nice upper arch, right? So once I set it down, I'm using the tip of my brush just to tap around the edges. As it starts to flow and bead out towards the side, I pick it up and I brush from the corner, from the front, same thing around the edges. And then you can see how the perimeter, like if I turn this all the way around, the perimeter is going to be tight. I don't do anything. I allow the product to level all the way down. Now, I don't have enough product here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to submerge my brush. I'm going to pick up another bead. At this point, I'm going to choose to kind of drain it. Then what I can do is I could turn my brush backwards, and then just kind of right here, I'm just going to brush this up into the body, and it leaves all that excess. And then what I could do is I could use the body of my brush just to kind of walk it down towards the tip of the nail to kind of fill out any missing space, right? So this is kind of the routine that I use when I am sculpting any type of nail. It doesn't matter if it's a coffin shape, doesn't matter if it's almanetto. Now, obviously this has a little bit of thickness, right? So I want to be able to use the body of my brush just to kind of mold it around the edges, right? So that you can see, right? I have great thickness there. This is going to give me room to kind of, you can see around the edges, right? I have great thickness here. I have great upper arch. This nail is not going to need a lot of filing, right? I've basically completed the free edge, establishes the tip. Once you establish the tip, then you use one big bead for the body. Everything kind of runs down. And then as it comes down, all I have to do is kind of fill in the edge. And that's what's going to make it absolutely amazing.
My apologies. You were frozen for a long time on TikTok, so they missed quite a bit of what you did. So I'm just letting you know, if you can explain it real quick for them, or maybe mention that they can go to Instagram after.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
yeah. So I was going to say, this is for those of you guys that are watching on TikTok right now. I was going to say, if the video is frozen, my suggestion is to go to the video on Instagram and watch it. We're going to be doing this on a day. This is the first live that we've done on TikTok. So my focus is obviously on the camera right here, but I have a team member who's helping me film for that. So if you guys missed the beginning, then go to Instagram and you can watch the live after I'm done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to allow this to sit. So notice what I do. I take my brush, I put it inside. I allow this to sit inside my dish, right? So that if there's any acrylic that's jammed up, it's not going to be caked on my brush. I'm going to make sure that I close my powder so I don't get any powders. And then I have a little bit of residue that's on my towel. Let's go ahead and kind of clean this up so that I have a nice working station to file. One of the things we're going to notice since I put this down is I'm going to go ahead and remove this. The bottom layer, right? The bottom layer is dry. So the top layer is still quite spongy, but that's fine. What I'll do is I'll take the back of a brush and I'll just kind of fold it around the edges just to make sure that everything is tight. So the last part of the nail, I know that this is dry right here. It's giving me a nice clicking sound. This is still spongy on the front end, which is absolutely fine. I'm not worried about this section right here. I'm more concerned about filing this into shape. So what we're gonna do, I have a used file that I've used. What I'm going to end up doing is reaching for a brand new file. If you have a brand new file, one of these files comes inside the Ultimate Kit as well. Take an older file if you have, and make sure that you take the edges. Make sure that you take the edges off of the file, right, so that you don't cut your customer. Now, what we want to be able to do when we file this into shape is I have to make sure that I'm keeping you can see that I'm keeping contact with the whole entire side, right? My file is absolutely connected to the whole side, right? So as I file up, right, only thing you're really looking at is the blue edge of the file. And you can see my dust line, right? My dust line follows up. I'm building a ledge all the way here. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side, keeping contact all the way through, making sure that my hand file is connected to the whole entire side. You can see that really, really straight, like you could see that straight ledge that I've built all the way to the edge, right? It runs all the way. That means my file was basically in contact from the very, very front all the way to this point right here, okay? Now, point 3 is making sure the free edge is straight. 1, 2, 3. Now, when I'm doing my lower arches, which is underneath, I need to make sure that we turn the hand to the side. My file is going to be parallel to the finger. I need to get it at the lowest point, and if I keep contact and I file straight parallel to the finger all the way up, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to build razor sharp lower arches. Look at that. Perfectly straight all the way to the point. So a lot of beginners, they make the mistake of actually getting their hand, like their file here, and they just start filing, and they end up putting a notch right here in the corner. If you turn the hand to the side, you can see that all of this loose acrylic, right? If I'm just going to kind of zoom in to give you guys an idea, but like this is all this area is a lot lower than this actual corner. So I have to kind of file away all that excess right there, right? So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to line up my file right here, right? And then I'm just going to keep it parallel to the finger. And as I file up and even, you're going to notice how perfectly straight, look at that. It's going to be absolutely straight, razor sharp, all the way from that corner all the way to the tip. That's how you're going to establish really, really straight side walls, lower arches, and then obviously the very, very front end, okay? So the sides are done, and what we're going to end up doing is we're going to switch out to my safety bit, okay? Now the safety bit is awesome because it's bald. I'm just going to keep a little bit of space right here. I'm going to lock this so the arrows are pointed. I'm going to run my electric file around about 10,000 RPMs. Now, what I want to be able to do, if you're looking at the side profile, right, I need to file the upper arch into shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. This is zone 1 of my barrel. The middle of my barrel is zone 2. The back end of my barrel is zone 3. Watch this. So I'm going to file zone 1, zone 2, and then as I start working towards the tip, this is going to be zone 3. And you can see how really pretty that shape becomes, right? You can see that I'm bringing in that shape, right, from the sides, trying to make that as even as possible. So that's how I'm going to shape my upper arch. When I'm shaping the free edge, if I'm looking down the barrel of the nail, it's like, okay, wow, it looks a little bit thicker on that side. So I'm pulling it towards myself, right, using the bottom of the barrel. I need to pull this towards myself to make it as even as I possibly can, right? I'm not going side to side. If you go side to side, the barrel will spin around the finger. What you have to be able to do is, if you're using your electric file, you're literally going to come in one direction towards yourself. And then what that's going to do, it's going to ensure that you're going to get a really nice, even C-curve from side to side. Then when I do my cuticle area, I just need to work in one direction, pulling towards yourself. So if you're left-handed, you're going to be working in reverse and then going in the opposite direction towards yourself. One direction towards myself. And then as soon as I'm done shaping the eye, then all I have to do is follow through the balance of the nail so it's perfect. Once the majority of the bulk is actually taken down, then I can take my hand file. I don't need to file that much around my cuticle and perimeter because I already know that it's self-leveled into perfection. Right? You can see how tight the cuticle is going to be, right? Then I can literally split this in half, this side and this side. And all I have to do is literally file down. You can see how I'm holding my file on the top just like this. Going to file down one side, boom, all the way through. You can see the file marks. All the file marks are like diagonal coming down that way. When I file this side, don't make the mistake of doing this. Don't just drag down. File up and then let the hand file fall. File up and let the hand file fall. So really fast. It's a lot easier for me to attack it coming this way and then letting the hand file fall, right? So once we've kind of shaped both sides, then the last thing I'm going to do is I need to turn it, right? I need to turn it so that I have this profile right here, right? I need to do client profile. So I need to straighten up that side so it's nice and even. I need to make sure that we get all my sides absolutely perfect, right? So that it's dead straight. And then what I'm going to end up doing is looking down the barrel of the nail. I can make a peace sign. I could rest it in between my knuckle. And then what I can do is I could literally kind of flow through the surface so that I'm going to get it super even from side to side, right? And this is going to be the last bit of detailing that I'm going to do to make it absolutely flawless, right? So you can see from all the angles, right? Let me go ahead and turn this around so that you guys can see as I'm filing this through. The shape is going to be absolutely dynamic. It's going to be fantastic. All right, so that was, I wanted to make sure that you understood that it's not just about, for me, it's not just about, taking the powder, slapping it down, and then letting it dry and filing it into shape. There's a process that needs to be done so that you have great structure from building the tip. You have the right consistency when you're building the tip. You totally understand the right bead, right? So that when you set it to the cuticle area, it levels. You don't have to force it. It levels down. And then knowing where to brush it so that it leaves the perfect shape on the back end, right? It gives you the apex that you need, and then the remaining area, you just need one bead to fill that in. Then the right guide to file it so that you file it into a work of art, right? Having the file and all, the right products to finish is one thing, but having the right roadmap so that you, again, are going to finish into perfection every single time, that's going to guarantee that you're going to be putting out nails that your customers are going to be blown away every single time you lay down, right? A refill, full set, a rebalance, whatever you're doing to make that nail absolutely perfect. This is Nail School. And if you guys have any questions, make sure to hit me up on Instagram, Gman Salo. Totally pumped that you guys were here today. I hope you guys have a safe weekend. Love you all. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Peace.